Hi, my name is Tyler Huff. I'm interviewing Heather Kendall about her book, One Greater Than Moses. So Heather, please tell us about this book.
It's about understanding the correct relationship between the Old and the New Testament. People have been arguing about this for 500 years. And in 1977, John Zenz wrote an article, Is There a Covenant of Grace?, that really shook the world, at least the covenant theologians, because they were very upset. And so it's a story of four men, pastors, who questioned this covenant of grace, this flatlining of Scripture.
What was the purpose for choosing that title for this book?
Because the central controversy between those four pastors and covenant theologians was an understanding of the law. Mm-hmm. Because covenant theology, when it flatlines Scripture, it takes the law of Moses and it separates it into civil, ceremonial, and moral. And it says the moral law is God's everlasting law and can't be changed. And in the Westminster Confession, not even Christ or Jesus can change the Ten Commandments. But in the New Testament, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, but I say unto you. He says something in but I say unto you. And he can change the law. He can make it more difficult or whatever for the people that he's talking to. So the New Covenant community is governed by the law of Christ.
Help me to understand, what is the new covenant of grace?
You mean, what is New Covenant theology? Mm-hmm. Basically, it's understanding that the Bible is one unit that's progressive, that starts at the fall and works its way up to the new heaven and new earth, and that was God's plan of redemption right from the beginning, and it's a progression of how God worked through history for Jesus to come and die and rise again and for our salvation.
This is not your first book, I take it?
No, it's the third book.
So it's just, 3 books. What inspired your passion behind writing this one, The One Greater Than Moses?
Well, in 2008, I heard about the John Bunyan Conference in Pennsylvania after I'd written my first book. And I went there, and that was the first time that I heard those words, New Covenant Theology, and I got very excited because I realized that's what I'd done in tracing God's plan of salvation right through the whole Bible. Well, my passion's always been for someone to get to the Bible and read about it themselves and just see that Jesus is all preeminent in all of the Scriptures. And if that's what they got out of the book, then that's great.
Yeah, powerful, huh?
Yes. You
said it's a book, it's a book referencing 4 different theologians. How did you find those theologians, or how did they stick out in your mind?
The first one I knew was John Riesinger, and then Gary Long came to the John Bunyan Conference quite often, and then I really forget how I forgot. Somebody must have told me that John Zenz was the one who wrote this article, and he's actually the one that started this modern movement of New Covenant theology. Though it's not really modern, but the name New Covenant theology is. And then in my research, I discovered Ron McKinney because he worked with John Riesinger with the Sword and Trowel.
So why do you think it is important for people wanting to understand New Covenant theology to understand the history behind the movement?
I think it's important because many times we're ignorant of our own history, and it's so easy to just fall into peer pressure and just this is the way the people in this church that I'm going to think, so it must be right. And so in the book I started right back with the early church fathers to show that the ideas of New Covenant theology were back right from the beginning. And actually, I didn't say it in the book, but it goes right back to the book of Hebrews.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what makes people so passionate that this is the right way to put the Bible together.
Well, we've been visiting with Heather Kendall on her book, One Greater Than Moses. You can pick up the book through Quoir Publishing or also find it on Amazon.com. Heather, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.